Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of Twitch Tales. Where did we leave off in episode 39? Well, Apis decided in episode 39 that there was an Arcanist in town, an Arcanist's guild in fact, called the Arcanist's Entente, a group of wizards and artificers and sorcerers and spellcasters of all sorts who have devoted their lives to studying magic and pursuing it like a research, like it's a science. So Apis went to this faction, which happened to be located inside of a school, and they met with an Arcanist, sort of a principal of the school, known as Vala. Vala revealed that she was more interested in she was interested in and specialised in blood magic and fire magic as her main sources of research. But she could do this minor task for us of identifying our bone dice down there in our inventory. The bone dice had been gifted to us previously by a fey creature, a cherub-like critter that we affectionately know as the Little Shit, due to his mischievous nature. But she identified the bone dice and said, it doesn't seem like they're malicious in any way. They will be used to cast the same effect as the spell Augury, in that you can ask the higher power who has created these dice, whoever that may be, you can ask that higher power the results of an immediate course of action that you're about to take, and the dice will tell you weal or woe or a mixture or no answer at all, depending on whether or not it's a good idea, a bad idea, some of each, or the answer doesn't pertain to whether it's good or bad. The question is moot, sort of thing. She also warned us that if we use these dice too often, Fae have a mercurial nature and a prankstery attitude, and so if you bother this higher power with too many questions in a day, there's an increasing chance that they will just give you a fake answer, a false answer. She's pretty confident that the first answer of the day would be true, but that any subsequent answer would get an increasing chance of coming up false. So that was what we got told about the bone dice. She also told us that while it's possible that they have some sort of enchantment deeper than that, that every time you use them it costs you something, which is what you were worried about. She said it's possible, she's not ruling it out, but it's unlikely. Or rather, if it is, then the enchantment's hidden well. Essentially, it's an actual working Magic 8 Ball. Yeah, it's essentially a working Magic 8 Ball, but the more often that you use it in a day, the more chances of it being a false answer, or a randomized answer anyway. So you left the school feeling in two minds about whether or not that was all that useful. And when you got outside, you were accosted by three attempted muggers from the night before, who said you have some interesting abilities because you'd used Misty Step to escape their notice the night before, and then you'd used Pass Without a Trace to blend into the shadows and escape them. They said, you've got some interesting abilities, the boss wants to talk to you. And you were in very different minds about what to do about that. Should you fight? Should you run? Should you just go with them without a fuss? Eventually, Apis decided to go with them without a fuss. They followed them down through the streets of this particular town until they came to a dingy bar called the Cracked Mug. And upon giving the password to the bouncer on the bar, you and the muggers were led inside, where you met with a stout halfling who calls himself the Fiend and runs the Thieves Guild here in town. There were a couple of dozen people in the room with you, about 20 or so. And so you had this discussion with the Fiend about your abilities and how they would come in useful for someone like him and in his line of work. And he offered you a job, essentially. He offered you a place in his guild as a thief. And you said, politely decline, essentially. And he said, fair enough. The choice was always yours. But before you leave, I'm going to take that gold. And so he robbed you. And we were in very different minds. Apis was right on the verge of kicking off a fuss and starting a fight and not giving up their 8 gold. but ultimately decided to give up the gold, give up their coin purse, and leave with their life. So you left the cracked mug, you left the alleyway that led to the cracked mug, and your giant bee companion, Mel, came buzzing down from the rooftops, and buzzing alongside you, she asks, "How did it go? Are you well? What happened? You look sad. You look different in your face. What is going on?" What do you tell Mel? What do you do now? It's over to you. What does Apis want to do? It's about noon-ish, early afternoon maybe. Do you want to... What line of action do you guys want to do? How do you feel about leading the knights to these thieves? You could definitely do so. You could go to the local law enforcement faction of the town, which is known as the Knights of Kavosna, with which you have a decent rapport, mostly. Tell Mel the truth. So for a start, we start to speak to Mel. We have a language in common with this giant bee, a language called Sylvan. And we tell Mel in Sylvan all of the things that had happened. We got robbed, and she's "Oh, that is awful. You lost some of those shiny metal things that you carry." Yeah, I did. I've not quite... So do you have any of them? I don't have any on me, no. Random View wants to sneak back in and rob those thieves, keeping in mind that we just left that place, having given over our gold in favour of not being killed, because we were outnumbered like 20 to 1. Find a jeweller. We need to get these jewels assessed so that we can get some gold back. That's a good option, so find a jeweller. Sneak back in, rob the thieves, find a jeweller. Having cooled down now, I think we should just ignore them unless they make themselves an issue. So don't worry, Mel. Eat lunch. We should go and eat lunch somewhere. How are we going to pay for lunch? Or are we going to use some rations? We've got plenty of rations in our pocket, so we could eat those. Still planning on meeting up with the knights last time, didn't we? Cast Pass Without Trace before we go anywhere is my vote. So Pass Without Trace is one of our new abilities. It is a 2nd level spell. Oops, I didn't open up my spell slots for the day. Let me open up these. As shown by these amazing overlays that Spidey NZ made for me, you can see that we have 4 berries to cast 1st level spells with, and 2 flowers to cast 2nd level spells with. So we do have, I believe we've got all of our spell slots right. We haven't used any today. So we could cast Pass Without a Trace, which gives us a +10 to our stealth modifier, and then if we were trying to be sneaky or get around town without being seen or followed by these guys, it would certainly help. So Kelso votes for Pass Without Trace. Tell Mel to go to the PEA and tell them everything, so if they follow us, they won't know anything. So tell Mel to tell the PEA everything that we've told her, keeping in mind that Mel is a not that intelligent animal. She's a giant bee and she's a friend. She's smarter than the average bear, but she's still a giant bee. She's not got the greatest intelligence, so some details of what we've told her might get lost or confused in the messaging process. We are being followed. We would get seen if we head to the knights here. We can give an anonymous tip to the knights in Shadridge after sneaking there, who can pass the info to the knights here for us. So yeah, Batmerp is of the opinion that if we leave Fondurg, the town that you're currently in, and head north, the journey up to the frontier town where we started this campaign, you could give the note to them, and then they could give it to the knights here, so that we wouldn't be putting anyone in trouble. We don't need the money that badly, people are saying. No reason to go to the knights since they know already. Sam could use a heads up. Sam is our romantic interest over the last couple of days. We went on a couple of dates with her. She could be targeted because the person who tried to mug us on our date recognised us when we went into the cracked mug. That is true. First thing we're going to ask, because it is important before we do anything else, somebody has suggested it. Do we cast Pass Without a Trace? Pass Without Trace. So for those who don't know, Pass Without Trace is a 2nd level spell slot, and it adds +10 to our stealth check. So for instance, if we were to roll a d20 and get a 17 plus our stealth modifier, which you can see the 3 over there from Dex, and then the proficiency in the box there, you see skills, you've got the word stealth. So I would add 3 from Dex, 3 from stealth. I'm adding 6 already, so that's a 23 already. 23 is a very high stealth check, but then if we'd cast Pass Without a Trace, it would have been a 33. And you can, with a 33 stealth, you can almost guarantee that unless there's some sort of magical tracker on you that you don't know about or whatever, then nobody knows where you are. You are officially stealthed. So if, in theory, you roll a 1 on your stealth check, you would add 6 and you'd get a 7 stealth. 7 stealth is garbage. You're pretty likely to not be stealthy if you're getting a 7 on your stealth. But if you were Pass Without Trace, then your 7 becomes a 17. So with a Pass Without a Trace, the lowest stealth you can roll is a 17. And the highest would be, conversely, you would roll a 20, which on this dice is indicated by a beehive. So you'd roll a 20, plus 6, 26, becomes 36. So Apis with Pass Without a Trace can roll anywhere between 7 and 36 on their stealth check. Having said that, it does come at the cost of using one of your two level 2 spell slots for the day. Between 17 and 36. Yeah, I might have misspoken. That's what I meant. Would it apply to our bee friend? Yes. So Pass Without a Trace is an aura around you. You and any creatures of your choice within 30 feet of you, that stay within 30 feet of you, have this plus 10 bonus to your stealth. So even Mel would have a decent stealth modifier if she was to like the magic that of the spell you would cast would dull the sound of her beating wings. Alright, but with 68% of the vote, Apis decides yes, we're going to cast Pass Without a Trace on ourselves, because it's quite clear from what they were saying to us during our meeting with the Fiend. It's quite clear that they've been following us since we got to town. So Apis tucks away with Mel and says, before we go anywhere, Mel, can you just come with me a second? And you pop down behind a couple of buildings and you allow for this adrenaline of this fury that you were feeling. You were absolutely fuming about it. Some of you were ready to kill. So a lot of Abis's mind was just ready to kick off a fuss in that thieves guild and kill as many people as they could before they left or got taken down. But ultimately you gave up your money, your hard-earned money, the money that you have earned through doing various tasks and stuff. Even after your charitable deeds of going and killing a boar and gifting it for free to the local soup kitchen, and this is how the karma comes back to bite you. So you're thinking all this, but you're like calming yourself down, and you get into the alleyway, and it's a little bit darker, and you think about the words that they were saying when you were in the meeting, about how they were vaguely threatening you and saying how they're making it clear that they've been following you. They know where you've been. And you breathe deeper. And as you breathe, you feel that sort of tingling of your body, and you're reminded of the deep breathing of the creature behind the shadowy mask that you saw in your dreams. The one that showed you how to use these shadows to your advantage. This gift of this god of disguise, this god of trickery. This god that had shown you how to shadow yourself, cloak yourself in shadows. And you think now is probably a good time to not be seen by people. If they're following you, you need to decide what to do and where to go. You think your mind goes to going to the knights and reporting them. But they warned you that if you did that, it wouldn't be a very pleasant end for you. Your mind goes to maybe going to the PEA and talking to them, but you're not sure if they would allow that either, how the Thieves Guild would think about that. Your mind goes to the fact that they almost certainly know that you've been spending time with Sam. And so you decide, wherever I need to go, I need them not to know where I've gone. And so you breathe deeply, and as you do, the shadows seem to draw in towards your body and cloak themselves over you. And you hear the sound of Mel's buzzing wings slowly die until she's still there, but it's muffled. It's like it's behind a large, thick duvet. One of your spell slots is gone, and you are concentrating. If anything happens to break your concentration, then the spell ends early. Otherwise, it lasts for the full duration of 10 minutes. So as you are cloaked in shadows that seem to dull the sounds around you, where do you want to go? Now that you feel like you could go around the city without being seen, and keep in mind, it does not turn you invisible. It does not grant you the ability to walk in front of somebody's face, even if you'd rolled a 36. If you get a nat 20 and got a plus 16, even with that, you can't just walk in front of somebody without being seen. You still have to be hidden from them. It just allows you to remain in the shadows or remain unseen by like walking around them and things. So I'm going to put it to a poll, I think. I just need the options. We can go to the Knights, we can go to PEA, we can go to Sam's, we can go to a Jeweler's. Is there anything else? Go back into the Thieves' Hideout. That's the fifth option, I guess. We can go back to the Thieves' Hideout. With 62% of the vote, Apis decides they're going to go check on Sam. As you sit there in the alleyway, trying to decide where to go, and breathing slower, getting your pulse back to normal, realizing that the shadows are moving with your breath. You think of Sam and the veiled threat that was on you and may well extend to her once they realize your connection with her. You breathe in one final time, casting that spell and shrouding yourself in darkness, and then you stand up and walk deeper into the dark alleyway behind you, deciding on a more circuitous path to get to Sam's house. Because you are specifically trying to not be seen by them, hence the casting of the spell, I'm going to have Mel with her honey dice, and you with your gemstone dice. I'm going to have you guys roll a stealth check. Because of Pass Without a Trace, your modifier is a 16. We get to add 16 to whatever we roll. And Mel gets to add a... Alright. We both got a 10. Taking your total to a 26 and Mel's to something else. I am going to roll perception checks for the people that are looking out for you. And as you head to the end of the alleyway, I'm going to roll a perception check for you. 3 plus your perception of 5 is an 8. So you walk through the back alleyways of Fondurg, realizing the nature of what this ability gives you when you manage to sneak right up on people who are... There's a man opens his door and comes outside to tip out a chamber pot into the gutter of the street, and you pass by him, like, right next to him, and he barely even notices you there until, like, you're right upon him, and then, he jumps with a start and says, sorry, and didn't see you there, and sort of laughs to himself and goes back in, and you realise, I wasn't doing anything to avoid being seen by this guy, so... It's obviously doing the trick, this job. And from his reaction, he didn't even seem to see the giant potbelly-sized pig that was floating along behind you, about 5-10 feet behind you. Again, at one point, there's a man unloading a cart. He's got the tarpaulin halfway off, and he's unloading the barrels into the back of this what seems to be a tavern, or maybe it's some kind of a shop that sells alcohol of some kind. And he's unloading barrels, and you walk right past him without getting any notice from him. Takes you a lot longer this way to get to Sam's than it would otherwise, but you get there just about the time that your spell would be wearing off. Just really quickly, I'm just going to double check. I'm just going to double check my spell there. Pretty sure the duration is 10 minutes, but it's been a while. Pass Without Trace. 1 hour. Excellent. So it's still going for a while. It's not 10 minutes spell. It's a 1 hour spell. So you get to Sam's about 10-15 minutes after casting this spell. So you've still got a decent chunk of it left. You watch from a distance first. new perception check for you. 8 plus 5 is 13. With a 13 perception from the shadows, you look across to Sam's hunting shop and you see that it's open, and while you're watching, nobody's come in or gone out of it. There's no broken glass on the windows or the door, so there's no visible sign of entry or break-in or disturbance from the outside. There's no one shouting or yelling or crying in the street, so that's a good sign. You wait for about another 5 minutes just watching, and you see one person walking up the street with some sort of a dead animal slung over their shoulder. It looks maybe like a small creature, maybe like a rabbit or something. You don't see what it is though, because they're coming towards you, and eventually they get to Sam's hunting shop and they turn in and walk themselves inside. About 2 minutes later, maybe about 4 minutes later or so, they come on back out again, and with a 13 you probably have a decent enough perception to notice that they've got a restocked quiver of arrows hanging off their hip now, and they just walk off down a side street with this rabbit still over their shoulder. So it seems like it's still operating as a shop. Waiting for your moment. This is the moment as this other rabbit hunter is disappearing down a side street. You pop out of the shadows and make your way across the road to Sam's hunting shop and walk inside. Tring! Sam is behind the counter, looking up, and sees you enter. Oh, Apis! I didn't expect you today. How are you? She looks as normal as ever. She's wearing a pretty sort of floral dress that's rather broad at the shoulders but slim around the waist. We've been better. Can we talk in private for a moment? She says, yes, I think we better. Please, come on in. And she walks through into the back room. You follow her in. It's the first time you've been in this back room from here. It's a very small, sort of a crowded space, in that it's a corridor with a storage room immediately off to the right, and just a door off into the left wall. That's the bottom of a staircase that leads up out of sight from where you are. And in the corridor is a couple of piles of boxes of other things as well. And so it's a little bit crowded back here, but she walks in and says, please come in. I would say let's go upstairs and I would get you a cup of coffee or something, but I really need to be keeping an eye on the shop for if anybody comes in. But she closes the door too behind you, and you're just both standing in this small corridor around some boxes. What do you want to tell her? You say, do you remember those guys who tried to mug us the other night? She says, of course. You say, I met more of them today. I'm probably leaving town, and I wanted to see you and make sure you're aware before I did so. They're dangerous. And she says, well, yes, I can tell you they're dangerous. Are you okay? Like, did they hurt you? No, they didn't. I'm worried that you may be targeted because they targeted me and I wasn't as forthcoming with them, or I wasn't as accommodating with them as I think they hoped. So they might know that the two of us are, whatever we are, and they might target you. So I just need you to be extra careful. And she looks upset and shocked at that. I'm really happy to see that you're safe. You should take extra care. Basically, they approached me and took me to meet their boss. And her eyes go a little wider. He wanted me to join them. He said that I have skills that would come in useful for them, and that they should I should consider joining them. And she sort of puts her head in her hands like this. When I said no, he took my money, he took all the gold that I have on me. And she says, "No, are you okay though? He didn't hurt you. He didn't hurt me. He just took my money and allowed me to leave. I'm just worried that he might target you to get at me or something. Ask why she thought should be good to talk in private. There's a moment of silence after that, and then you recall that when you said, let's talk in private, she said, yes, I think we'd better. And so you bring that up. You say, "What? Sorry, was there something you wanted to say?" And she says, yes, sorry, no, you said you were leaving town, right? It sounds like that's probably for the best, given the circumstances of what's happened. I'm just going to roll an insight check for you. 9. 9 plus your insight of just +2, so 11. She seems still preoccupied with the news of what you've just told her about the thieves. Ask if she offers any protection from the muggers. You don't know any, like, you've lived here longer than I have. You don't know any sort of protection from the muggers or anything, do you? And she says, I mean, the Knights of Kovosna have always helped me out. They offered me a similar thing a few years ago, and thankfully I haven't been bothered by them since, but I didn't meet with this, you called him the Fiend? Yeah, that's what he calls himself. I didn't meet with him, but they came to my shop and they said that if I was to join them, then it would be lucrative for both of us. And I said, no thank you. And for the next week or so, my shop got vandalised almost daily. And until I eventually got the Knights involved, and they stood guard outside of my shop for about 3 weeks after that. And when they finally started to reduce the amount of guarding that they were doing of me, it seems the Thieves Guild they'd gotten their message across, and they left me alone after that. We told her we would leave town after we were talking in private, though. What's she hiding? If you'd have rolled better on your insight check, you might have. Forest bonus. No forest bonus. Tell her a lie and see if she knows it's a lie. Like what sort of thing, Spectred? We never said his name, we only referred to him as the boss. Okay, well then she would have said the boss then. She didn't say the Fiend unless you did. Insight check. We did an insight check before. Is this a new thing that you're insight checking about? The insight check on the story of her being vandalized? The big story. Alright, insight check on her big story about being vandalized and such. 11 plus your insight of 2. That's a 13. The 13, it seems, I mean, you don't pick up on anything that would seem like a lie. So she's either a decent liar, or this particular story, if this story is embellished or falsified, then she may have just told it enough times that it seems natural to her. But she seems genuine enough. But you don't know her super well enough to know any of her tells or anything. I don't really want to go to the Knights over 8 gold that I had in my pocket, and I feel like the thieves would come after us looking to kill us if the Knights suddenly raided them after we left. That's probably for the best, yes. If you know where they operate, it's important information for the Knights to have, I think, but I don't know that it's right to do it yet. Not when it would be so obvious that it came from you. Are you sure there isn't anything you want to tell me? She says, what do you mean? Like what? You see, their boss, the demon, I believe is called, is particularly nasty indeed. She says, the demon? He's a demon? No, he didn't look like one. He called himself the demon. And I presumed you know that you're deliberately changing that to see if she reacts to it? To see if she seems to know what he's called? Yeah. So now he's calls himself the demon. She says, what a horrible person. I don't know why somebody would... That does ring a bell though, I think. I think they talked about something like that back when it was scrolled. They scrolled all sorts of things over my shop at the time, and I think it was something to do with demons, and He's just a man with a big ego. Right. A big ego and a lot of people at his disposal, I think. I don't like that we've gotten caught up in this abyss, and I think it's probably for the best that you leave. It sounds like it's a dangerous place for you to be right now, and maybe you come back to Fondurg one day and it's all sort of dealt with, but it doesn't seem safe for you to stay here. Tell her we're likely to head out of town, but we'd love to check in on her when we come back next, if that's okay. We probably are going to head out of town, but I think when I'm next here, I'll pop in and check on you, see you're okay. She says, yeah, that'd be fine. Also, you should still keep saving for that journey to the capital. And she laughs and says, yeah, I will. It's my main goal. See, it'd be a fun journey to go on. I'm sure you should let me know when you're going. Just roll an insight check for you. With a 16, you see a sort of a momentary hesitation of before she says, yeah, it would be a fun journey. So, anything else you want to ask her? Tell her anything you want to say, do, ask her for before leaving. She's still hiding something, but we don't know. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, you get the impression that there's she's just kind of being relatively hard to read. You don't really know her that well. You've only spent one evening and one day with her. You say, well, we'll meet again soon. It may be later rather than sooner, actually, but take care. She says, yeah, you take care. And she opens the door and leads you back out into the shop and says, do you need anything before you go? Do you need more arrows, or how's that net? Is it still good? You say, yeah, it's still good. I'm fine. I've got my rope and net, and my weapons are fine. I think I've got everything I need. You say, right. Take care though. I'd hate for something to happen to you. Okay. You say, yeah, I will do. Will she buy a manticore spine or two? You guys want to sell another couple of manticore spines? How many have we got now? We had 10. We gave 3 to the fiend as like a negotiation tactic, and then he ended up taking those and the money. Who wants to sell her some manticore spines before we go to try and make some money back? Most people say no. We say as we're sort of in her shop, we say, do you know any jewelers, by the way? Remembering that you have a necklace and a ring in your pocket, in your pouch, in your bag. Do you know any jewelers? And she says, yes, there's... Why? You say, I've got some jewellery that I might sell to get some money back after losing all my money. She says, oh, right, I see. I could float you some money. I could give you some money if you really need it. Say, no, it's fine. I can sell it to the jeweler. It's fine. Just do you know where? And she says, yes, there's a jeweler down the road. Let's see, who is this jeweler? They are female. Let me get my random number generator here, and here. 017 is human. They're a female human. She says, yes, it's a woman. What sort of age are they? Let's go E8 and then a D10. 19. Young woman. Wait, no, that was the other way around. No, that was right way around. 19. No, plus 10, because obviously it can't be 0. So 29. 29-year-old human woman. She says, yes, there's a jeweler down the road. Her name is... Give me a name. Human name. Somebody name the jeweler. Julie. Thank you, Batmerp. Julie. Her name's Julie. She works just down the road from me, about I don't know, 8 or so doors down that way. So she's just offered, do you need me to give you some money? Are you okay? And you say, no, thank you for the offer, but I'll be fine. I usually spend my time out in the forest, and trees don't really need much gold. She says, yes. It's one of my favourite things about going out hunting, I suppose, is that you can get by without needing all of this material stuff. You say, yeah, I'll be fine. I've still got this, and you pat your bow. You say, I've still got these, and you pat your quiver with the arrows in it. So with those I can get what I need, really. She says, right you are. I don't doubt that. Your skills are very impressive. So you go to leave. Hug, kiss on the cheek, or just leave? What do you guys think? Hug. A couple of people saying hug, so you go, right, well, and you sort of put your arms out somewhat awkwardly, and she says, yeah, and she gives you a hug. That's she's not so much taller than you. She's mid 5 feet, and you're mid 4 feet, so she's about a foot taller than you. It's not super awkward. Insecure fist bump turned into a hug. And then pat, and then you leave, and you're left feeling like that encounter was as awkward as it was. It's a side hug, cold. And then you are back out in the road. It's probably mid-afternoon at this point. You've got about half an hour-ish of your Pass Without Trace left. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do now? You want to go to the jeweler's straight away? Look out for anyone watching the store, and then straight to the jeweler. It's the perception check then, see if anybody's watching the store. With a perception check of, what is it? 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 12 is 17. With a 17 perception check, with a 17 perception check, you don't see anybody watching the store. And then you're going to go straight to the jeweler's store, which is about 8 doors down. You head straight down the road towards the jeweler's, if that's presumably that's the consensus, right? Because we asked about her, and a few people are saying jeweler's. I'll put it to a poll. Just a quick 1 minute poll. To the jeweler's, yes, no. Do we need the money or not? Because when we go to the jeweler's, we might be able to sell this necklace, and we might be able to sell this ring down here. With 85% of the vote, people saying yes, Apis should go to the jeweler's first. AJ also wants a solid steel ring so that we can have unarmed strikes if we need to. Because if we have a steel ring, when we do an unarmed strike, we can channel our planar warrior into it, and we can use planar warrior on an unarmed strike. All right, so we head off down the road. Trying to remain stealthy, but you are out in the main street of town in the middle of the day, so there's no real opportunity for you to roll stealth until you disappear down dark alleyways and things. So you walk down to the jeweler's store, and when you get there, you see that there is a dark robed individual, looks to be like late teens or so. But he's got a shaved head and a eyebrow ring, and it looks like he's spent most of his teenage years in a gym of some kind, in that he's quite well built. And he's just standing leaning against the wall outside of this jewellery shop. And he sort of smiles at you as you walk. You have to get within 10 feet of him in order to get into the door of this jeweller's store. He smiles at you and sort of nods, and as you get closer towards the door, you get to within 30 feet of him, and he says, You wanting a jeweller's store? Need a bit of cash, do you? Thieves around a jeweller's store? Who would have thunk? He kind of laughs at you mockingly, and is making it clear that he's not threatening you or taking anything from you. He's just making it clear to you that they know where you are. What do you do? Do you continue on into the jeweller's? What do you guys think Apis would do at this stage? Mug him? We could, he is on his own. He's a big guy though, so having a fight with him in the middle of the street could go your favour, or it could go his. It really kind of might come down to who gets the initiative. Alright, most people are saying either ignore him, say something snarky to him, but ultimately go inside. So we walk past him into the shop, and as we walk into the shop, he sort of pushes himself away from the wall and just keeps walking away. It seems like his purpose is filled. He's putting the willies up you. He's kind of showing you that you're being watched, and you might be, you've got to keep your wits about you, sort of thing. But he leaves as you enter the store. Julie's in the store and greets you, and she's a human with a side what's it called? A side mullet, where she's got the left side of her head shaved, and her hair sort of falls down over the right side. She's got a small tattoo that you can see kind of like the beginnings of it that disappear behind her hair, and you can't quite see what it is. And as you walk in, she looks up and greets you. Hey, come on in, please. What can I do for you? You looking for you're buying or selling? As she talks, you can see that there's like a glint of something metal in her mouth as well. It seems like she's got a tongue piercing. Can we see if we can get a closer look at that tattoo? Might be important. Absolutely. Hey, nat 20. Look at that. With a 20, what would your perception be? 25, right? So with a 25 perception, as you walk in, you get a decent look as she kind of like sweeps her hair back. You see that it's a tattoo of an anvil, and the anvil has a metal gauntlet sitting face up on the gauntlet. Now I will make a religion check for you. 8 plus your religion, which would be a 3. That's an 11. You don't recognise the symbol. It's just a cool anvil with a gauntlet on it. How much time is left on the end of the spell? Probably about 15 minutes at this stage-ish. No, actually probably about like 20 to 25 minutes. So you say, she says, you here to buy or sell? And you say, it depends on your prices. She says, that's fair. Please take your time to look around. If there's anything in particular you're looking for, let me know. I'll be able to find it. We've got all kinds of different jewelry. He saw as clear as day. Yeah, because we were walking outside in the clear of day, and like I explicitly said, Wraith, pass without a trace is not invisibility. If you walk down the street in broad daylight, the plus 10 to stealth is not going to help you. I thought he only saw us when we came out of the shadows to cross to the jeweller's. He may well have, yes. So you say, cool tattoo. Can I ask what it is? With like persuasion. You ask her, no persuasion necessary. She says, oh yeah, it's a symbol to Hyphustia. And Hyphustia you would have heard of at the very least, even though you didn't recognise their symbol. Hyphustia is one of the greater gods of this world. They're in the war domain, and their portfolio includes metalworking, the skills that come with running a smithy, armour, weapons, forging, all that sort of weapon creation and metal creation. The tattoo seems somewhat odd for a jeweller. Yeah, I think it can be asked about. Yeah, so you ask her that and she willingly says it. Yeah, it's a symbol to Hyphustia. I'm quite a fan, and she's blessed me with a great power of metalworking. I owe her a lot, so I thought the very least I could do. What are you looking for? Do you have any hardened steel rings? Hardened steel rings? Like a wedding band? I'm looking for a potential spell focus for combat if you have anything that would suit. Hardened steel? Hey, like the sort of thing you'd make a weapon out of? Hey, that's exactly right. Okay, I don't know if I do. Let me check. I'm going to give her a percentage chance that she has something like that, because it would be like she wouldn't necessarily need to use hardened steel in order to make a ring normally. So she probably wouldn't have that, but I'll give it a chance. That is no. If those had been the other way around, that would have been a success, but they were not. She says, I don't think I've got steel wedding bands, but they're not made of like hardened like weapon material. You see, right? I need it to be hardy enough that like damage, and and she goes, "You gonna be using this as a weapon?" Because I know a weaponsmith who can probably make you hardened like what do they call them? Like the knuckle punchy ones. See, yeah, I'd rather it just be a ring though, so it doesn't look like a weapon. You say, okay. No, I'm afraid I don't have anything like that, but I mean, you're welcome to have a look through my rings. And she kind of points down one side of the store. Jeweler probably falls under that god's umbrella quite neatly. Nothing suspicious here. Lots of metalworking in jewellery. I hope this jewellery isn't reported lost or stolen. They were loot from the Manticore. Yeah, that's right. The ring and the necklace that we might be getting appraised were loot that was recovered from a manticore. Right, I might have a look through your rings later, but I wanted to find the value of a couple of trinkets that I've picked up on my travels. She says, "Oh yeah, that's one of the services I offer. Please come on up. If you just want like a first idea, first impression, that's free. But if you want me to like really get into it, then I usually charge what would be a reasonable amount." She says, "I usually charge like 5 copper per item." You say that's fine. Just a first impressions kind of appraisal is fine for now, thanks. She says, right you are then. Place them on the surface here, and she gets out a small sort of soft leather pouch, soft leather chamois almost cloth, and she places it down on the table. You take out the ring and the necklace, and you place it in front of her. And she says, right, I mean, they're in relatively good condition. And she looks over the ring and says, yeah, this is a nice ring. It's got good, it's got its clasp intact still. The gemstone's still very beautiful. This looks relatively. You just found this on your travels? Where did you find it? See, what do you say? What do you tell her about where you found it? Do you tell her the truth? Found it in the loot of a manticore that I slayed? Be honest, manticore loot. See, I found it actually in a manticore lair. I slayed a manticore that was ambushing people and keeping their stuff, and this was in his loot. Wow, you're quite the hunter. That's impressive. Well, this was taken relatively new, I would say. This was pretty fresh, so this would be worth quite a bit. I'll put a number to it in a second once I've had a thought about it. She takes up the necklace and says, "Same with this one, I assume." Aye, that's right. She's right. Well, this one's relatively good nick as well. You've stumbled across something really relatively lucky there. I'm just going to. She goes, right. Well, for the ring, I would make it. I think I would put it somewhere in the region of like 10 to 14 gold. For the necklace, this is in. It's got nicer inclusions in it. It's got a nicer gemstone, but the metal has started to tarnish, and you can see that the clasp at the back here has been replaced a couple of times. It is a slightly older piece. So for this one, I would say somewhere in the same range, maybe up to about 15 or so. You can get a plain steel ring from her. She would have a plain steel ring from her, I'm sure. Could she turn a spine into a ring? No. I mean, potentially, but probably not. Could we get a second opinion? Yeah, we can get a second opinion if you want. We could try and haggle with her if we're actually going to sell it to her. If we sell anything, can we ask her to hold part of the money until we return, just so we don't lose everything again if we get robbed? Smart. Poll. Sell? Question mark? Sell the ring, sell the necklace, sell both, or sell neither. If we go any of the sell options, then then obviously we will try and haggle at that point. We'll enter a persuasion off to see if we want to see the best price that we can get from her for the items. But first we just need to decide, now that we've had them roughly appraised, she's given us a range for how much she would be willing to, or how much she thinks they're worth. Can we sell in Shadridge? You could sell in Shadridge. Is there a jeweler in Shadridge? I don't think there was. It's not one of the earliest. Most necessary stores or shops that a frontier town would have. So I don't think there was a jeweler there. But you could sell them to like a general store or sell them in like a private sale, easy enough. You just probably would get a lot less for it. Apis would know that selling in Shadridge would almost certainly get you less gold than selling in a larger town, because there's a lot less demand for it and a lot less expendable cash for people. We can't live in fear of thieves. We've killed a manticore, for Pete's sake. That is a very good point, Spider. We have killed a manticore. We've killed a displacer beast, almost alone. Us and Mel. Apis and Mel together killed a manticore and killed a displacer beast. And an ogre and a bunch of goblins. Sell the necklace. 54% of Apis's mind decides that they're going to sell the necklace. So, Apis says, that seems like a good price to me. I'm going to roll a persuasion check first. This is how I like to do charisma checks in my games, guys. You roll a charisma check first, and then the dice will tell you how the interaction goes, and then you can roleplay it more accurately rather than like giving a really eloquent speech and then rolling a really terrible charisma check. So the charisma check is an 18 plus 1 from our charisma. We're not proficient in persuasion, so that's just a straight 19. Do we want to re-roll with inspiration or horseshoe to try and get that 19 or 20? Or are we happy with a 19? That's a great roll, keep it. Yeah, there's only a 10% chance of us getting any better than that. So we've got a 19 total. We do a very good job of persuading her. We say, we appeal to her. Let's have a look. So we notice that she is, let's say, in the background of her store, in sort of behind the desk that she's working at, there is a musical instrument standing there that's like a stringed instrument, almost like a guitar, but like a stand-up guitar. And we, as we're talking, we notice that, and we say, "Oh, you're a musician. I'm attempting to practice the panpipes myself. I've got the," and you get your panpipes out, and you say, "I've been trying. I just feel like I get stage fright when I'm performing in front of people. Do you get that?" And you talk with her a little bit about music and about her interests there, and you say, "Yeah, I'm really trying, but you know, it's difficult. I'd love to be able to actually afford like proper lessons or something, but you know, I've literally got no money." And you get your pouch out, and you go, "I'm forced to go and put my life on the line to." Have to put my life on the line to even get things like this, coins and little bits of things from monsters' lairs, just in order to sell them so that I can actually afford to eat and things. So I can barely afford to eat. I obviously can't afford to be buying lessons and things, and so I'd love that. But anyway, yeah, I think I will. I'll sell you the. I think I'll keep this ring. It's quite a nice ring, and I'm thinking about maybe keeping it myself. But the thing you. I'll get that if you. I'll get you to buy that if you wouldn't mind. And you sort of pulled on her heartstrings enough and showed her that you were literally broke, and and made a little bit of a humanoid connection with her with the music thing. So all of that comes through as a very persuasive argument and makes her feel a little bit more inclined to give you the higher range, the higher value of that particular range. So she gets out a jeweler's loop at that point and gives it a proper appraisal, and she says, "Okay, yeah, yeah, I'll give you the 15 gold for it, and I won't charge you for the appraisal. That'll be included in the price." So you good with 15 gold? You take that, accept. Nice. Alright, you take 15 gold for it. Break any of it into silver, or just take it all as gold and then try and hide it on our person somewhere. 1,500 copper, please. Is there any actual benefit in breaking it down? Like if you go out into the street and there's a beggar man who's like, can you spare a coin? And you don't have any coppers or silver, you might feel bad about not giving him any coppers or silver. If you have to buy a candle from someone and it's like 5 copper or something, and you don't have any copper, you might give them a gold and ask for them to break it down. 9 silver, 10 copper, and the rest in gold. All right, yeah. So she is happy to do so. She gives you 14 gold, 9 silver, and 10 copper, just so you've got a little bit of extra change. For if and when you need coppers and silvers for paying for smaller amounts of items, and you don't want to get out a gold piece to show that you're rich. Because a gold piece, remember, is like $200, which would be quite a lot of money to just like hand over as here's a $200 note. Can you break that into $2? So you've got a bit of pocket change now. Oh, and you no longer have the necklace. Then you walk over to check out her ring selection. Yes, you want a steel ring. You say, also, just a plain ring. I wanted to look at like your wedding bands if you've got some. Then, and she says, "Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, just over here." And so she takes you over to the ring selection, and she shows you a bunch of different wedding bands. She talks about the gold ones that she's got and the silver ones, and there's like a bronze one that she's really pleased with, and she's engraved "Love You Always" sort of thing around the inside of it, and she's really happy with it. But you're like, I'm just wanting a plain steel ring, if you've got it. And she says, I do have the more practical purpose rings here, and she gets them out, and she's got just a selection of smaller bands, like different various widths and different sized, what do they call them? Different radiuses, different radii. We eventually find one that fits and is a decent width to it, and she says that'd be one. What would be a decent price for us? 1 gold, $200 for a ring like this. I think she puts in a decent amount of work. Making a ring in medieval times is probably very difficult without modern equipment. So I think 1 gold. She would probably charge a gold piece for this ring. She says, that one will be 1 gold. Is an iron harmful to Fae? It is, a little bit, yeah. Do we ask her to hold part of the money for us? We could if we want. Do you guys want that? Firstly, are we buying the iron ring for a gold? Alright, we give her 1 gold back to buy the steel ring. The iron ring, rather. And we now have an iron ring, just a regular iron ring band. I'm not going to put it here because we immediately wear it, probably on our middle finger, right? Is Apis left-handed or right-handed? What do you guys think? That's a good poll question, actually. Alright, 68% of the vote saying Apis is ambidextrous, so that is locked in now. Apis is an ambidextrous person. And 18% of the vote saying right-handed, so Apis will, although they are just as good at punching with either hand, they will choose their right hand for wearing the ring. So Apis puts a metal band on the middle finger of their right hand, just so that when they punch people, they can channel the planar warrior into it and deal planar warrior damage. Also, handshakes with disguised Fae should probably provide a tell for us. That is a good bonus to it being on the right hand. If you go to shake a Fae's hand and they touch an iron ring, they might go. So Apis buys this ring, places it on. Is there anything else you want from this store? A couple of people said that they wanted to stash money here or ask her to hold some of the money for us, but most people were saying no, don't do that because we've already got a stash elsewhere in the world, and having another stash here is just splitting our money between too many different places. So I assume that you at least want to stash it on your person somewhere so that if you get robbed again, you don't lose all of your gold. You want it in a separate pouch. Is that right? Use the last minutes of Pass Without Trace to head on out. Yeah, you don't have any sort of timekeeping device in this day and age, but as such, you probably get a pretty good tell for the general passage of time intuitively, and you'd probably be coming to an end of your Pass Without a Trace. You've got a few minutes left of it, probably. Hide money on our person, but not in our gold pouch. All right, let's go with let's do a sleight of hand check to see how well we can stash this money on our person. Hurrah! That's a 3. A 3 sleight of hand. We're not proficient in sleight of hand, so it's just straight dex, so that's a 6 total. A 6 at stashing this money on ourselves. Do we want to re-roll that with any sort of a re-roll? We've got inspiration and a horseshoe, I think. Did we use those? We might have used both of those. I don't remember. We didn't use them in case it came to a fight, that's right. We talked about it, but did not end up using rerolls. Alright, rerolling, yes or no? We've got a 6 total on hiding sleight of hand. We've tucked some of the coins down our front and they just fall straight out, and you're like, well, that wasn't good. And you you put some in your quiver, and you can just look down into it and see it, and you're like, maybe not. Most people saying yes. So you try a little harder, you think on it a little bit more, and you can come away with a 22 instead. So you decide, yeah, no, that's crap. Let's go with... Actually, let's put some down the boot here. Put a couple coins down there, a couple coins over here. You've got a small sort of pouch of rations. You open up the sort of the beeswax paper on your rations, and you stick a couple coins in between some of those and wrap that up. You do a much better job of it. You've got a herbalism kit on you, so you open up one of those and you pop off one of the jars and stick some coins down in between some of the herbs in the herbalism kit. She watches this with bemusement and says, what are you doing? You say, just caution, just being cautionary is all. It's a lot of money to walk around with. She says, okay. And still leave 1 gold in the pouch so the thieves don't get suspicious and search us further. Yeah. So we leave a gold and the rest of the chain. 1 gold piece, and the silver and copper we leave in the pouch, but the other 12 gold we stash over our persons. All right. A bottom compartment in the quiver would be neat. Yeah, that would be a cool thing to get stitched into it. Next time we've got some spare gold and some downtime, we could hire a leather worker to add as a compartment to the bottom of our quiver, I guess. All right, where to now? Are we going to the PEA now, or to the Knights, or leaving town? Is there any other option? Might not even need a poll. Most people saying just go to the PEA. The PEA are outside of town anyway. Go see about the dragons. The PEA are in the south of town, yes. All right, most people are saying the PEA. It seems like unanimous, so I won't even need a poll for it. So as we leave the jeweler's store, we look around again. Hey, nat 20. Nat 20 on our perception check, and we see that standing over the road are a couple of humans, 2 young women, probably in their late teens, and they're dressed like normal peasants, normal everyday folk going about their business. And as we leave, they both turn to sort of look at us as they hear the tringing jeweler's door across from us, and then one of them sort of nods. And then the other one kind of smirks and gives you a wink, and then they go back to their conversation. Memorize their faces before we head off. Yeah, we do a good job with the nat 20 and perception. We do a good job of like taking a mental note of everything that they're wearing and who they are, what sort of what appearance they have, and then we leave down the street, immediately turn off into an alleyway, and do our best to stealth from that point. With the remnants of our pass without a trace on. Mel, who has been sort of perched on top of the jeweller's store, waiting for us, buzzes down the alleyway after us. And so she is also going to roll another stealth check. Were they in the pub as we did a look at most of the people there? We did have a good look around most of the people there. They could have been. We didn't identify every one of them. But they could have been 2 of the women that were in the pub. It's hard for us to know for sure. If they were in the pub, they were dressed differently. Alright, 9 out of 10. So with your 9 and your 16 modifier from Pass Without a Trace for the last few minutes, that is a 25. Alright, so you duck down this alleyway and you take off at a relatively quick speed, not knowing exactly how long this spell lasts and how much longer you've got of it. You make your way south, generally south, winding your way. After like another 8-9 minutes or so, you feel this sense of light. The air seems to get the surroundings around you seem to get a little bit brighter, and at the same time Mel's buzzing starts to get a little louder, and you realise at that moment that your spell has worn off. You make your way through the back streets though, stay into the back streets as best you can, until eventually you get to the back end of town, the south end of town, where there is a gate out of the walled town, and the gate is open. It is manned by a couple of knights of Kvosna, people with braces but no cloaks, indicating that they are squires but not yet badgers. Joel is not on guard duty. The only time we've met Joel so far, he's been guarding the north gate of town, not the south. And it was Joey, not Joel. We head out of town, not seeing anybody else watching us along the way as we go. And another 10 minutes of walking, we are at the greenhouse that serves as the headquarters to Benkampur and Emgleshed. You walk in, you greetings to people. A couple of them come over to greet Mel. They're happy to see her again and happy to have you guys back. They seem to enjoy you guys being around. And you head into the back room to talk with Polython, the head of this particular faction of the PEA. What is it you wanted to come here and talk about? For all of the people who wanted to come here, what was it you wanted to know? What does Apis look like? Is there a picture? There's a lot of pictures of Apis, but it's all artist's impression. It's all what you guys imagine of Apis. I'm deliberately keeping it vague. We've decided that Apis has sideburns but no beard. But even that is up to your own interpretation. The sideburns are kind of like subtle enough that they could be covered by hair, could be covered by long hair, if Apis feels more feminine in that particular day. We wanted to talk to them about anti-poison, didn't we? Find out what's happening with the dragons, and also I personally wanted to see Briar again. Have there been sightings of more half-dragon creatures around Fondurg? Alright, so we ask, pleasantries, introductions, how we going, how's everything been, blah blah blah. How was your date with Sam? I haven't seen you since then, because she helped you pick out a bouquet of flowers to give to Sam on that first date. It was alright. It was fine. We went to Peak Dining and had some food, and it was fine. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the dragons again. Have there been more sightings or anything? And she says, yes, unfortunately they have. Briar has been continuing the investigations over the last few days. She's been keeping herself safe, disguised as an animal, only talking with the animals and plants about what she's seen and what she's heard. And we can all but confirm. And she looks around and makes sure that nobody's listening in. She says, keeping this between us, because we don't want to start a panic. It's almost a definite confirmation that there is a dragon in the area. It seems that he arrived, from what the animals are telling us, he arrived a few years ago. Animals are never good with times and numbers. They're not good at the passage of time. But from what we can tell from Briar's investigation, he arrived in this part of the forest a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he's been growing a population since then. He's been procreating with as many animals of the forest as he can in order to have children to do his bidding for him. Briar has managed to avoid any injury of her own by staying in animal form, but it seems he is... we're not sure exactly what his goal is. It is not an enjoyable thought. I've been speaking with the Knights of Kvosna, and they unfortunately are much too short-staffed to deal with a full-on invasion of the forest to drive him back. They have petitioned the king to send some of his personal guard here, but the chances of that coming through, in my opinion, is very low. And even if he did, it would be weeks before they arrived. We are perhaps on our own until such a devastation happens as to confirm the urgency of the situation, by which time, of course, it may be too late. the knights are putting together as many of the task force as they can, as many of their power. But I'm not sure how it will work. It might be a case of waiting for him to make the first move. Do you know any sort of numbers for, like, how many are there? She says, as I say, animals are not good with numbers. Briar has met several of these half creatures, mostly rodents of kinds. There have been a few mustelids and squirrels, a couple of rabbits even. She even saw a few more of those giant rats. But thankfully they were not all in one place. They were just roaming the forest as though they were regular animals, just catching food and leaving. Is there anything the wizards could do? Do you know about the Arcanists, if they're aware? It says they are apparently aware of it. I've not contacted the Arcanists directly, but the knights assure me that they have been talking with the Arcanists about it. Is there any sort of a potion that would make a dragon infertile? And she says, "Oh, I hadn't considered that route. I admire the way your brain works. I haven't considered that. That might be an avenue worth pursuing if we can force this dragon to somehow. How would we force him to take a potion though? But that would be a task for another day. But if we can force him to take a potion that could render him infertile, it would put an end to any sort of procreation. That is a very clever idea. I will have to do a lot of study for that. I might need to. I may well need to approach the Knights of Kavosna, the Arcanist Entente for that. They would probably help out with pursuing that as a line of possibility. Is the King Damon? Yes, it's the same country as you're in your campaign, Spidey. Briar has proficiency in patience. Yeah. We could try baiting it out with some fire magic. Make it think there's a fire dragon around. Briar has found that it has the she got opportunity to speak with one of the less intelligent of his children, its children. From what they said, it seems like this dragon is not following the train of thought that there is another dragon in the area. It's very difficult for me to be telling you this. In fact, let me get Briar in here, and she can tell you firsthand what she heard. And she gets up and goes outside and says, "Marcus, have you seen Briar around?" And he says, "Oh yeah, she just went out to grab some berries. She was going to make some berries and cream for us later." So, right. How long ago was she? And he says, I know, about half an hour ago. She's actually, I can see her. She's coming back now. Ah, right you are. Send her in if you wouldn't mind when she arrives. He says, will do. And she heads back into her office, and a few minutes later, Briar comes back into the greenhouse, and she drops off like a little pouch, sort of Hessian sack of berries. And the guy walks over to her and she toddles over into the office with you guys.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, Briar. Apis, of course. You've met, of course. I was just I was filling in Apis on and closes the door behind her. She says, I was filling in Apis on the situation of the dragon in the area and the likelihood of that and the possibility that it's going to turn into something more. And Briar toddles up and hops up onto a chair and says,
"Yeah, it's rather worrying, to say the least."
Would you mind telling us what you heard directly about? Apis was discussing the possibility of persuading this dragon that it had competition in a fire dragon.
He says, "Yeah, It's hard to know exactly. I spoke with one of the squirrels, who was an offspring of his. It seems like Draconic would have been his preferred language, but I spoke to him in Sylvan and he understood somewhat. And then when I couldn't get much more out of him, I drew from the nature magics to communicate with him from that point forth. He says that he said his father was angry that there was another father in the area, potentially another father, and then he said that his father had said that if there was another father in the area, he would find him and kill him or make him work for him. And so it was very difficult to know. I think when he was talking about fathers, the squirrel was talking about his father, the dragon. And then when he was talking about other fathers in the area, he must have been talking about his father, the dragon, discussing another dragon in the area. I don't think it was the father of the dragon that was being discussed. I think the squirrel was using the father term to mean dragon. And so it all got very confusing. and Polython says, you see how I didn't understand exactly. See why I wanted Briar to explain it directly. Yeah, I mean, even me getting it directly from the squirrel still was rather confusing. I think that the dragon thinks that there's not another dragon in the area, is what I got from it, but I could be mistaken.
Right. Would a joint task force help? The PEA, the Knights, the Arcanists, and anyone from town willing to help? Like all the hunters, whatever. Like everybody joined together. She says, "Oh yes, it will definitely come to that if the king does not send official support. If this dragon is to encroach on our terrain too much, if he is to make himself known to the town, then at that point we will either dissolve, or we will have to band together to force him back. I think there may be a reward put out, to be honest. I think how this usually goes is that a town will hear rumours of a dragon like this, and the knights will offer a reward for information on it. That reward may be taken by other knights of Kavosna, the field knights, but just as often it's taken by independent adventurers, such as yourself, perhaps. Is Shadridge in trouble? She says, I don't know. Why? What would make you think that Shadridge is? From this dragon, you mean? I don't see why this dragon would cause Shadridge any trouble. It is much closer to our town than Shadridge, and green dragons are notorious for wanting to make people work for them in certain ways. They would be more inclined to stick around a larger town where they can find people making wondrous things for them. They like to hoard items that have got great work behind them. Great workmanship and craftsmanship have gone into. They hoard statues and artworks and pieces of artisanship. And you are more likely to find that in a town or a city than in a frontier place like Shadridge. So I don't think Shadridge would be in trouble of this dragon. How much time do you think we have before this escalates, you say? She says, I don't... It's impossible to know. Dragons live for such an exorbitantly long period of time that he could be choosing to bide his time until he has an army of thousands. Or he could attack tomorrow. This is why we do not wish to raise alarm at his presence yet, until we know more. Well, we've got some experience in tricking creatures into taking potions they don't expect. I once did so with a Sasquatch. It says, yes, you told us that you might be the right person for the job if that does come to it. Do you have any idea what age this dragon might be? She says, unfortunately not. That's one of the things I've been asking Prior to try and find out now. That's the most important information for us to know, but dragons are especially coy about their age, as they do not want to get out how vulnerable they are, how young, how inexperienced. They often will conflate and exaggerate their own ages. Would the squirrels or other animals spawned from the dragon be more talkative if it talked to in Draconic? She says, I mean, it's possible. And Briar says,
"Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you're likely to get more of a conversation, but the way that I can use my magics, I can talk just as well with them as you would be able to in Draconic, but it just takes me more energy to do so. So I can have fewer conversations in the day, but the conversations I do have are just as conversational as yours would be if you spoke to them in Draconic, right? And to be fair, I've been going around in disguise. I've been disguising myself in various animal forms before talking to them, so I've been able to get by in the forest in a way that I don't think you would, perhaps.
Do you think microdosing the poison might help to build a resistance to it? It's certainly an option. It's certainly a possibility. Dragon breath poison works differently to the poison ingested by mushrooms or various bacteria and fungi and various different ingested poisons of that nature. They work differently even to chemical poisons designed in laboratories or potions and alchemists. Dragon poisons are more magical in nature. They are harder to come by, obviously, for reasons that bottling some poison is a particularly dangerous and difficult situation. I don't know of anyone who have dragon poison. So microdosing against other poisons would probably not help. But microdosing against that particular dragon poison, then that could help. It's just never been done. Do you require anything else to help with researching the poisons? She says, I mean, in an ideal situation, we would have many sealed glass jars filled with this dragon's breath, in which case we would be able to study it and work against some sort of antidote or resistance to it. Sounds as if time favours this dragon more than it favours us. Yep, probably. How far into this dragon's territory have you scouted so far? And Bryce says,
probably about a quarter mile or so. I didn't want to get too close, but the closer I get, the more I worry that I will encounter more of these creatures. Thankfully, I've only encountered one or two at a time and managed to get out of there before kicking off any sort of a danger. They don't seem overly hostile. Well, they do, much more hostile than a regular animal of their size would be, but I don't want to encounter too many of them that I can't get away from them.
Well, we'd be happy to test that microdosing theory for you if you need us to. So, yes, well, I think you would be the right person for it. Your blood as a dwarf is much more used to poisonous nature and recovering from poisons. So if we do use that sort of a theory, then we'll go with that. Why is this presence of a dragon so little concern to the king? Does he not believe you? She says, the king is known for his... And she kind of looks around, and you're in a glass office in the middle of a glass office at the back of a greenhouse, 10 minutes from the nearest town. So I don't know who she thinks she's going to be overheard by, but it's almost like an instinctive thing where she kind of looks around before saying, King Daemon is known for being... He has a reputation as not the bravest of sorts. And choosing her words carefully, you with your insight of 17 plus stuff, you can tell that she's trying to avoid saying that King Daemon's got a reputation as a coward. She says, I don't think he wouldn't be the type to send his army to deal with something that's not a direct threat to him. Also, dragons are relatively rare, and so he probably gets numerous false rumours of dragons. He would have to send somebody to investigate it and assure that it was true first. Does Briar live out of town? She does, yeah. She lives south of even where you are at the moment. Tell Briar of her no affinity for the shadows and offer to join her on a trip the next day to scout if they'll allow. Briar, you've got a good point about like you being able to disguise yourself, but the last few days I've been training in town. I've been sort of coming used to some of my abilities. I've learned of a technique that I can use to sort of become one with the shadows almost. I've found that wherever I go, even over wet mud, I don't leave tracks. I become much quieter, and the druid says, I have a similar ability that I can do. Say, is that right? Yes. It's a way of passing without a trace wherever you leave. It is a natural magic that comes often with people of our kind, by which I mean druids, rangers, people who have studied wild magics. Well, I seem to have developed it as well. That is impressive. Well, I think it would come in useful. I can get around that forest without as much threat of being seen. That is very useful to know, for sure. It's the problem of getting the dragon to eat or drink the poison that we make to make it infertile. Dragons are not easily tricked. And she says, no, green dragons even less so. They pride themselves on being very intelligent and cunning. They will see deceit long before. That is not to say that they cannot be tricked if you play into their hubris. So the fact that this is a known area for green dragons shouldn't need them sending a scout to confirm. You'd think. You're still going off of her hearsay though. Like, the king might well be sending someone to confirm, or he might be sending an entire army right now, but you're just going off her hearsay about what she's heard from the knights second hand about what they've said to the king. Would some live hybrids help for you to milk regularly, have an easy supply of poison for testing? She says, yes, I imagine so. It would be very dangerous to do so, but having a live supply of a dragon, a half dragon, such as a squirrel or one of the mustelids, it would be very effective at expediting a process of finding some sort of antidote or resistance to it. Can we ask Briar? Can we stay with you? I've had a situation with in town where I don't really feel safe in town anymore. And Paulton says, I'm sorry, what do you mean? I don't want to really get into it, but I was robbed by some thieves in a guild. I want to know what Paulton knows about that. He says, oh, right, the Steel's Edge, I believe they call themselves. I didn't get their name. Yes, they're a bit of a nuisance in town. Always have been. They think of themselves as having a wider reach than they do, but here in Fondurg they are as dangerous as they say they are. If you stay out of their way, they will usually stay out of yours. But occasionally, unfortunately, paths cross. I'm sorry to hear that you were robbed. You are physically well? They didn't hurt you? They didn't hurt me, no, they just took some of my gold. I'm so sorry to hear that. If there is anything I can do, if you are needing money to pay for food or anything, I'm happy to arrange for something. I can possibly arrange for payment. If you need payment, in fact, I could probably arrange for it as a reward for going with Briar to further investigate. With your new abilities to pass without trace, I imagine you would be well suited to investigate more about this dragon. And by doing so, I'm sure I'd be able to arrange for a reward with the Knight of Kavosna. What would need to be done to assemble the aforementioned task force? Or would you rather not solve the problem with violence? We are already in negotiations with the mayor to arrange for the task to be undertaken by those most suited to it. As far as the Pencampwyr and Emgylshed are concerned, dragons have a natural place in the world. When they are close enough to a town that the town has heard of them, they are close enough to cause a nuisance and overbalance the delicate nature between wilderness and civilization. The Pencampwyr and Emgylshed consider it wrong to go out hunting for miles to find a dragon's lair, just to slay a dragon. But it is not out of the ordinary to protect one's civilization from a dragon that has moved into its territory. They run on donations. They do. The Pencampwyr and Emgylshed run on donations. but from what she was saying, she makes it sound like she might be able to arrange the reward through the Knights of Gosna. He said payments not needed. We're fine now. I managed to sell something that I had, and I've got more money now than they took from me, so I'm okay. She says, right. Well, if you need anything that we can offer, we can assist in any way we can. We have been brewing potions over the last few days and trying to stock up on our supply in case there is an attack on town and wounded need our help. So we could probably assist you with health potions of sort. We were going to offer you money because I understand that the PE run on donations. She says, that you're very kind. You're a very kind person, Apis. We do run on donations, yes, but we donate our time more than anything. We grow the ingredients that we need and find it in the woods. There's, on the rare occasion that we need to buy new flasks or glass blowing, then of course we will use gold for purchasing those things. But for the most part, we manage to survive without the need for too much in monetary donations. Of course, anything you are willing to give, we are willing to accept. But in a situation where you have just been robbed, it should be the last thing on your mind. Would they have anything to beef Mel up? You say, can I just ask, and you sort of point through the glass back into the main area of the greenhouse, and you can see Mel kind of buzzing around the place, and then settles in one of the middle flower beds. Say, Mel, there, anything you can do to like help her out, beef her up, like make her stronger or hardier? And she says, I could think about it. She has a much different physiology than humanoids like you or I, or Briar here. And so our potions probably don't work on her the same way. What sort of a thing, if you wanted her larger, there are potions that can enlarge a person or a creature. We could possibly work on that. If you wanted her invisible or it's a much more difficult potion. She can already fly, of course, so potions of flight would be unnecessary. Leave it with me, and I'll try and think of something that could help her out. Smarter, if there's anything that can affect a person's ability to think smart, that would actually help a lot. And she says, okay. We can, again, that is very difficult ask for a giant bee with a different physiology to us. She has a different brain, and it's why it's created in a different way. So I would have to do some research, but I can work on that when I have the time. So she might have to. She might give some time if she's got time in her downtime. She might be able to put together something or think about how to put together something. You could forage this afternoon for ingredients they might want for their research and offer to help capture some hybrids tomorrow for them. Yeah, could do. Could Mel wear a fitted mithril shirt kind of thing? She could if one was like specially made for her, yeah. Because obviously it would have to fit over like wings and stuff, and it would have to be mithril so that it's light enough for her to actually carry. A mithril chain shirt could potentially work. Would it be possible for Mel to deliver the poison with the silent owl wings and a stinging entrapment attached? See, if we had some way of making Mel fly silently, like I know owls sing, they fly with like silent wings. So if we could give her something like that, could she potentially deliver the poison, like administer it, if she like crept up on them or something? And she says, it is possible, but of course that's a several part process. First we have to work out how to make her fly as silently as an owl, and then we have to make her have some sort of trap or something on her person, and then of course we have to still administer. We still have to create the poison that we want to administer in the first place. And none of that is a guarantee that the poison will even work, because green dragons, of course, are very aware of poisons. They know how to handle themselves around poisons, of course their own, but it means that they have a hardier constitution when it comes to any sort of a poison. It might not do the trick that we want it to. Ask Briar if she'd rather have us come with her to scout, or if she'd prefer going it alone, strength in numbers. She says if
you can be as quiet as you say you can, and it seems Polython agrees that you'd be quiet with this spell of whatever it is, then you're absolutely welcome to come with me and work with me on the investigation.
If we make it as a gas or burn it as a smoke, she says yes. It's all things that I will look in. I will take these things into account, obviously, when I'm creating it or trying to create it. There's so many variables in that I would need to speak with the people at the Arcanist Entente about whether it is even possible. So the infertility potion, you've gone as far as you can go with that at this stage. She's going to need to look into it. It's definitely a good idea, and she's going to look into it with the Arcanist Entente. But at this point, there's no reason to continue sort of beating that horse at the moment. So what do you do? Anything more you want to ask her about, talk to her about, give her, tell her, take from her before you leave? Are you going with Briar to go investigate, or are you spending the rest of the afternoon here? What's the deal? Is there anything we can do for you before nightfall? And she says there is a great deal to be done. Yes, we are currently investigating. We are currently foraging for a great number of ingredients that we need for the potions we are creating. If you have time, we would greatly appreciate any help assisting our foragers with finding the ingredients we need. We'll do that, and then we'll head out first thing in the morning, then first light. Says that sounds like an excellent plan. If we use the potion to spike a large animal like an elk, and the dragon might get half dragons to eat from it first to test what this completely unknown potion does. But since half dragons are infertile, it wouldn't have any effect on them and might just fool the dragon. That's a very clever idea, Sparrow. You asked us to stick around to help, so I'm here to help. But having an immediate goal in mind would be nice. Is there anything I should be doing? Do you want me to go and catch a hybrid alive? And she says that I think that would be our best chance at micro-dosing, as you call it, this process of trying to understand the poison. If we can catch a hybrid alive without incurring the wrath of the dragon, and get back here with one, it would be very useful to the process of preparation. Do you have anything to contain that hybrid then that I could use in case I manage to restrain one? She says that's an excellent point. We have. I tell you what, there's a hunting shop in town. Oh, of course, you know it's Sam's hunting shop. She's excellent at creating bespoke items. If you ask her to create, we still have the corpse of the squirrel, this half dragon squirrels. If you take one of those to Sam's hunting shop and ask her to create a muzzle that would fit it, then perhaps that would be enough to prevent it from breathing its poisonous gas over you. Would our magic rope be good when we contain the half dragon? Yeah, probably would. Art of Umbo, yeah. One of the things that your magic rope does that you are aware of is that it can restrain a creature. You can hold one end of it and you can give it the word restrain, and it will jump forward and try and entangle a creature in front of you, as long as it's not a creature that's too large for it to do so. We have a conversation with Mel, trying to teach you some tactics, how to avoid danger and not cast spores over us. That would probably be a good idea of your evening. So doing that, Saint, would take up the rest of your evening. So you can either go foraging for her, or you can spend the evening with Mel trying to teach her, hey, if we're underneath you, don't cast spores over us, please. You say, I'm still trying to avoid town. Is there anyone else that could make the request from Sam? She says, yes, of course. I can send somebody else. It's just that you were the one to kill the half dragon creatures, so I assumed that getting one from the knights would be easy enough for you to do. The one that we had that you brought here, unfortunately we've experimented on it so much that we've completely destroyed its face. Now it wouldn't be a good specimen for Sam to create a muzzle from. But if you'd rather, I can send somebody. I can send Marcus to get a specimen from the knights and take it to Sam's for creation. Alright, so go back to Sam's and get a muzzle made, go foraging, or teach tactic lessons with Mel. What do we want to do for the rest of today? We can just go into town and leave our robbables here at the PEA. What sort of potion ingredients you need the most? And she tells you the different ingredients, which I don't remember off the top of my head. Simbatrin, Elendiol, something else. 57% of Apis' mind wants to forage for potion ingredients for the Knights of Kvosna. So it's for the PEA rather. Brewing for beginners. Here it is. If you want to see my brewing rules, by the way, little plug for Patreon right now. I have made rules for how brewing potions works in my game, and if you want those rules, it's behind the paywall of Patreon. It's a way of supporting me with you getting some kind of cool perk for it. Potions. Where is the potion of healing? Light. You need ACGT, which is Aleandol, Simbatrin, Gumboy, and Tunzrik. Aleandol is a bitter herb. Simbatrin is a thin, brittle bark. Gumoy is a violet fern leaf. And Tunzrik is a long, woody root. So those are the four common ingredients that you need to make a potion of light healing. You also need a flonenberry, which is something that they grow here in the they grow here in the greenhouse. It's a very difficult sort of a rare berry that grows with magical qualities. It's essentially like a natural version of goodberry. Goodberry creates a magically created version of the flonenberries. And the potion also uses a drop of fresh blood. So they, in order to make the potions of light healing in great quantity, they need all of those ingredients. What is with you and things that need spelling? I swear you do this all on purpose. Yeah, because I'm making up words for fantasy stuff. So of course they need spelling. You don't need to spell them in a recap, though. If people want to know the spellings of these ingredients, they can access them through my Brewing for Beginners document on Patreon. So we spend the rest of the day. We say our farewells to Polython, and with Briar in tow, the two of us go off hunting and foraging for ingredients, foraging the forest. So it is, let's see, late afternoon, so you've got like 3 hours before the light goes dark, maybe an hour after, so I'll say you've got like 4 hours-ish, just over 3 hours. So here's how it works. Foraging, you first need to choose how long you're going to be foraging for. We're in the 3 to 5 hour mark, so we've got a +1 modifier. Foraging environment, where are we foraging? Are we foraging in a light forest or wood, or a dense forest or jungle? Because we're only going relatively, we're not going to be going with 4 hours there and back again. We're not going to be going too deep into the Giftigald forest. There be dangers deep in the Giftigald forest, so we're going to stay in the sort of lighter outskirts of the Giftigald. So I'm going to say that's light forest or wood, which gives us a 0 modifier. So we've just got a +1 modifier to our survival roll. Then we are going to roll survival. Roll a survival check. It is in the woods, so we do get a plus forest bonus to it. Our survival is a +3 from proficiency, +2 from wisdom, so we've got a 5, +2 from forest bonus, we've got a +7, and then +1 from foraging for 4 hours. So we get a +8 to this roll. Survival, here we go. Pshow! 13 plus 8's 21. Do we want to reroll with forest bonus? Reroll with whichever one we didn't use before. This one comes back on a day. Do we want to reroll with inspiration or not? No. Must be, it's unanimous so far. People don't want to reroll. We're happy with 21. Alright, unanimous no. So we do not reroll. So 21 gets us 3d6 common ingredients and 1 uncommon ingredient. It's a pretty good roll. So 3d6 common ingredients. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One sec, order for sure live. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 common ingredient. So we get 5 ingredients. We're going to take 1 of each of the A, C, G, and T, and then we can have 1 more of one of them. Roll the D4. The 4. Find 2 lots of Tunzrik, and then one of each of the other. So and then we are lucky enough that we find a very small patch, a small bush with berries on it, and we have enough berries on there that we can actually take one serving of phloem berries as well, so that they don't need to use their own. So not too bad. We've got enough. We've basically just found all the ingredients we need to make a potion of light healing. So for the rest of the day, we forage for 4 hours in the forest with Briar. We get to know her a little bit better as we're talking, as we're foraging together, and then we head back just after nightfall to the greenhouse. We give them the ingredients that we found and say we found enough to make one potion of light healing. And she says, "Very good, thank you very much. This one will have your name on it. I will give you it as soon as it's finished." You've given yourself a free potion of light healing by working for free for the Pencampwr in Amgleshed. They are happy with your work. As you return, she doesn't give you the hard sell, but she sort of indicates that if you should ever want to work with the Pencampwr in Amgleshed, I'm sure we'd love to have you as a wanderer officially. But that's a story for another time when we're not quite as busy, I suppose. And then you are gonna go sleep. Where do you go sleep? Near Briar's place? Like, do you go back with Briar? Briar would love to have you over as a guest. She lives a little south of where you are at the moment, a little bit deeper into the Giftergald. How much are those muzzles going to be, so I can pay you? And she says, "Oh, I'm not sure actually. Scotty," and she goes out. "Scotty, how much were the muzzles?" And he says, "Sam said she'd do us 3 for a gold." "Right, yeah, a gold piece for 3 muzzles. Go with Briar." "Briar, I don't suppose I'd be able to stay with you tonight. I'd rather not be walking around town this time of night, and I'd be able to get going faster in the morning. I have my own bedroll and rations, so you better even know that I'm there." Briar says, "Yeah, of course, yeah, of course." Give the gold, that's cheap. Give her a gold piece. Alright, so you, before leaving with Briar to go back to her place, you say, "Here, that's the gold to pay for the muzzles. I'll pick them up when Sam's finished with them, I guess." And then you leave with Briar and head back down south to Briar's place. You walk for like 20 minutes south of where you are, maybe about 30 minutes because she's got tiny little legs and she's even slower than you are. Until eventually you get to an area of the forest where she says, "This is me here. We've got to turn off the road here. Just be on have your wits about you because it could be a bit of a dangerous path this time of night. There's creatures about." You say, "Right, okay. I'll do so." And you keep your eyes open and ears open, eyes peeled. There's no attacks or anything get to you before you arrive back at her place, though. So while we're walking around and while we're foraging and things, we mentioned the thieves to her. Yeah, okay. So we'll mention the thieves. We tell her the story of what happened to us and who we met and things. She says,
"Oh, that's horrible. That's I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that you got robbed. I'm sure that one day Fonderg will have a large enough Knights of Kavosna that we'll be able to drive them out of town. But unfortunately, those thieves have been around for, well, there's always thieves around a town, isn't there? Whenever there's people, there's nasty folk as well that ruin it for everybody else. Of course, you see the same sort of nastiness in animals. It's just not done with such a malicious way, not in such a conscious nastiness. You know, animals will be out for themselves, but they don't know any better, whereas humans should know better. It's always disappointing. I'm sorry that happened, Davis."
"Hey, so am I, but then there's people like you that make me remember that not everybody's horrible."
"Oh, thank you." "Oh, this is me here."
And she points over and you're like, "Where?"
And she says, "It's just this one here." And she's pointing and
I'm not seeing it.
She says, "It's just it. Come this way."
And she points over and like she's pointing And you're like, is it behind this tree? And she says, no, it's this one. And she takes you right over to the base of this huge tree. She says, is this one here? And you walk around it. And there's like a natural knot between two, a natural sort of opening between two of the huge roots. She says, it's just under here. It's a bit of a, you might have to bob down a bit. I can get in just with stooping my head, but you might have to crouch a little. And she stoops down and gets into the inside of this tree. And then you kind of stoop down and follow. And once you're inside, you can see that it's about 8 feet diameter tree. And there's, on the inside of the wood, there's like an introduced wooden staircase, like she's created it herself, but like you can tell that she's not exactly a woodworker. She's taken in individual planks through that little hole, and then she's made herself a little circular staircase that goes up, and then there's like a little floor above you. And you're kind of having to, it's the first floor's probably only like 4 feet off the ground, so you're having to stoop a little bit, and then you go up that staircase and creaking and she lives in a tree. Yes, she does. You in a hollowed out tree. So you're kind of, there's a little bit of skepticism about whether these boards will hold your weight, given that she's less than half your height and you're a dwarf, and she's easily less than a third of your weight. So actually, I'm going to roll to see if the boards do hold your weight. They do. They seem like one of them is about to give way, but you manage to get to the first floor up. And then she says, you're welcome to sit here. I'll make a little room for you. And she kind of like moves about like a little, it's like a coat stand sized thing that she just uses for putting her cloak on. Just move this over here and put that one over there. And I've got a little chair here, and moves a little chair off to the side. You can sleep here if you can fit. I'll be up on this one. And she goes up, continues up the stairway to a floor above it. I wonder if trees would actually like it to have people live in them. Probably not, but this one's dead. This one's a long dead tree. So you spend the rest of the evening with Briar at her place. It's not like you're small enough, thankfully, as a dwarf that you can get by without needing to like. You're not uncomfortably curled up. You can stretch out in this 8 foot diameter tree. But you're on hardwood, and so your bedroll is thankfully just soft enough that you can actually sleep through the night. And you do so. You have a long rest. Your spell slots come back. Pew! Your horseshoe comes back. And the next morning, you and Briar set off right before light. She says, I've got some eggs. I could cook us up some breakfast if you want. And she comes on down the stairs and sets up a little campfire where she's got like a fire pit that she's arranged outside of her roots. And she sets up a little pot and pan and starts to boil some water for some tea and washing, and starts cooking up some eggs as well. So you have breakfast with her, and by the time you finished your breakfast and washed your face in the hot water, the light is coming up and it's time to get underway. What is it that you want to do? What's the idea? You're going to go straight north and start working. Well, you need to pick up the muzzles from Sam's on the way. And after you pick up the muzzles from Sam's, you're heading north of town, trying to capture a live specimen and bring it back. How long would the muzzles take to be made? Well, a few hours probably, but she had all of last night to work on them, so hopefully she'll have made them, or at least one of them. Straight. All right. So you head straight north past the greenhouse and into town. By the time you arrive in town, it's like 7 a.m. or so. You walk through town to Sam's place, and you get there just as she's opening up. And she says, "Oh, hey, I thought you were leaving." She says as you walk in. You say, "I need those muzzles you were working on. If they're made." She says, "Oh, you. Oh, I see. Yes. I have 2 of them made. I didn't have time to finish the third." And she gets you them and hands you 2 muzzles that would be big enough to fit on a squirrel's face. She says, I'll keep working on the third in case you need it, but I'm afraid I've only got the 2 now. So you've got two squirrel-sized muzzles basically made out of repurposed net material. And they've just got like a simple clasp at the back. So you You head north of town. As you're walking through town, you get towards the gates, and when you're in sight of Joey, you hear the twang of a large sort of ballista-sized crossbow bolt from the top of the wall of town, and then you hear, "Wait, shit! It's another one of them! It's another one! Off to the right! Off to the right!" And another one fires off, and then you hear another guy go, "Shit! There's two of them! Shit! There's two of them!" And then he goes, "Shit! It's coming! And then bing, 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 bing. You hear a bell start ringing off, and you start picking up the pace to be like, "Fuck, what's going on?" The bell starts ringing on top of the wall, and then you can hear off to the sides of you, about 300 feet to either side of you. You hear two more bells start ringing, bing, 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 and then from those, another couple of bells start ringing further back into town, and then another couple of bells until eventually, like the town is awry with bells ringing. It's not long before you see why, because although you can't see the target of their ballista arrows, you can hear, and eventually you can see just over the wall, quite high in the sky, a huge shirehorse-sized creature with a long neck and legs, and a gharial-like snout with a bulbous tip. A green creature with huge long wings, spread, its legs tucked beneath it as it flies, hundreds of feet above the town. You see the ballistas fire off in vain, missing it and arcing too low. And the dragon starts to swirl overhead. It does one lap of the town as people in the town start to scream in sheer terror. All of their expectations finally realised, all of these rumours finally proven true, as you look up at a green dragon circling the town. It seems to get lower after the second lap. You reach up to try and Hunter's Mark it, Captain, but it's out of range. The ballista firing in vain. Eventually it circles back around after two laps of it. People are running and knights are starting to assemble. You can see people bustling out of houses. At this point you've gotten to the front gate and Joey has slammed them shut. A few of the others have slammed these gates shut. They've essentially locked up the town walls. And then this thing disappears again behind the wall, out of view of you, in the direction that it came from, the path north of town, towards the Lannis Woods. It's a full dragon. This is the first time that Apis has seen one in person. You've read about them, you've seen pictures of them, you know all about them, you've learned their language, you have studied dragons. But this is the first time Apis is seeing one in person. It's hard to tell its exact size based on its height, but it looked to be about the size of a shirehorse. It lands on the other side of the wall, out of sight. And then you hear it shout.
"You have killed my children. Send out your champion to hear my demands."
The screaming stops once the speaking starts. And you can see a bunch of knights sort of pushing past you and bustling up to the top of the wall to sort of look over at this thing. You make your way up the wall as well, nobody's stopping you, and you rather have a view of what the hell is going on. You walk up to the top of this palisade wall, and you can see that it's stopped a few hundred feet away from town. I'm going to make a perception check for you. 12 plus your 5 is 17. 17 is enough to see that littering the path ahead of you, there are about 7 or 8 dead creatures that are evidently half-dragon creatures. You can't always tell which one is what the other half of those creatures are, but they are about the size of the half-dragon rats that you'd encountered. They are dead because they are shish kebabbed by ballista bolts, and it seems like these have been coming out a relative frequency towards this north end of town, and they've been picked off by the ballista. What you also notice with a 17 and your +3 intelligence is that you're smart enough to realise that the distance that the furthest these ballista bolts have reached, the dragon is staying beyond that. And you realise with that he has deliberately sent out some of his children to test how far the range of this town's defences are. And you realise this is an intelligent predator, and a ruthless one at that. He's sacrificed some of his children in order to learn more tactics about this town. And he's now standing opposite that. His legs standing really long beneath him. His neck even longer out in front, snake-like, serpentine. And he slowly paces back and forth with his wings curled up behind him.
I will not repeat myself. Send out your champion, that I may send him my demands.
And as he says this, there's like plumes of green smoke unfurl from his mouth. At this point, you hear a commotion. Tochu, please, don't go alone. And you look round and you see there is a knight of Kvosna bustling his way through town, still clipping on some armor from his shoulder pauldrons. He gets to the front of town with his gauntlets off, and a squire runs up beside him, holding them. And he says, Tauchu, here's your... And he kind of bustles forwards. He's pushing his way through. It seems like he's been met. Tauchu, you've met once before. He is a lion grade of the Knights of Kvosna. And he wears a silver cape. He is a field knight. And he once gave an announcement in the halls of the Knights of Kvosna. He gets to the front gate, and there's frantic discussion, which you don't really hear from your point up on the wall above it. But eventually you hear him shout, "That is an order!" And reluctantly, one of them turns and takes the bar off the door, and the gate opens up, and Tauchu walks out with his gauntlets in hand, and he starts to put them on. The squire comes out behind him, and he turns his hand and pushes him back. And you hear him say, "Not now. He only wants me." And then he turns and starts to walk out. You watch as Tauchu, this knight of Kvosna, walks forwards with his hands to about his head height and says, "I am the highest ranking knight of this town. If there is to be a champion that you wish to speak with, you speak with me." Are you guys just watching this unfurl? You're on top of the wall, back in the town. What do you want to do? Yeah, the dragon has been speaking in common. The knight's speaking in common as well. Just watch. Can we get close enough that the knight's within our range in case he gets attacked? You can do so, but to do so you'd have to go back down the stairs and out the front door, get them to unlock the gates for you, or you'd have to jump off of the wall and follow him that way. And it's about a 25-foot wall. 25 is probably a bit much. It's probably just under 20 feet. It's probably about an 18-foot wall. Alright, we're in two minds about it, so we're going to have to take a poll. If he's out of range of ballista, he's out of range of the bow. That is correct. He's about, you're eyeballing it, so it's hard to know exact distances, but he's somewhere between, he's probably about 300 feet away. Somewhere around that. Probably a little more. And just so you're thinking of the right things, this isn't a giant city. So when I'm saying ballista, they're essentially just essentially large heavy crossbows. They're not like the sort of ballista you'd have on a proper King's Keep or something. They're not humongous, well-built things. They're just sturdy enough to be like placed in, set in place on top of this palisade wall, like oversized crossbows essentially. We've got a longbow, so we have 150 feet up to 600 feet range with disadvantage. Yeah, so we think that there's a chance if we arc it right, we could probably hit him, but it's at disadvantage from the range that he is. We cast Hunter's Mark, much too far range for that. 77% of the vote, Apis is just going to watch for now. All that being said, you do reach down your quiver, get out one of your +1 arrows presumably, and just like ready that in the bow, just so you've got ready with something. You watch as he walks forwards. If you want to speak with a champion of Fondurg, so be it. I'm the one you speak with. And the dragon says,
"So you're the champion. You're the one who killed my children. You're the one who claimed to be working for a rival. You're the one responsible. You will hear my demands. Every day, I want one of your most precious items out here at dusk. Every day, I want one of your most valuable possessions in my possession. Every day until I am satisfied."
And Tao Chu's still walking forwards, and he says,
"Now get here, closer."
And Tao Chu gets closer, but you see him drop his hands to his sides. And he's armed up now. He's ready. As he passes about the 200-foot mark, you notice that there is an odd sort of a bulging of the dirt path behind him, about 200 foot out. So he's between the dragon and this bulging dirt mound behind him. Before long, that dirt mound kind of bursts open as a huge clawed foot comes out. And then as these clawed feet push to the surface, you see emerging from behind him the half-dragon scaled head of a giant mole that crawls to the surface. And just as you scream out, "Behind you!" Tao Chu spins around and draws his blade as this mole blows smoke all over him. At the same time as the dragon, the actual dragon, comes charging forwards, his wings extending from behind, pushing him forwards with momentum as he breathes a plume of smoke, bursting from the forest on either side of the path. A huge tearing of vegetation bursts open as a half-green dragon boar, the same one that seems to have scars on its face from a recently healing scab from you hitting it with various arrows as you ran. The boar charges out, breathing smoke and also bam, ploughing into the side of Tao Chu with its goring tusks. Tao Chu just boom, his sword goes clattering to the side. There's a few from the other side of the path came a charging stampede of about 6 giant rats with green dragon scales from up their face, each of them breathing smoke. Eventually, Tao Chu is just not moving as the boar stampedes, turns around. There's volleys of arrows coming from the various ballista. A couple of the rats goes down, and the boar gets hit with one in the shoulder. The dragon comes at this point. He gets to Tao Chu. His claws go down and grab Tao Chu's body as he brings his neck and chest above Tao Chu. His wings spread out as the rest of his family, his children, head behind his outspread wings. The arrows hitting against his scales and bouncing off. You may take an attack, but it is with a disadvantage because he's outside of your regular range. 2 plus 16, 2 or a 16, 2 plus your modifier with your arrow. Not enough, unfortunately. Still outside of the range of your hunter's mark as well, I think. What's hunter's mark regular range? It's 90 feet, right? And so it doubled that to 180 from memory. He's definitely more than 200 feet away still. So I think your hunter's mark's still gone. You can try and aim for the children, but there's so much happening at once that picking one out, they'd all be at disadvantage. So either way, a 2 plus your modifier is not going to hit any of them. Your arrow disappears into the volley of other arrows that are coming from various ballista, and even the ones that are meeting their target are bouncing from his scales. You see one of them strike into him and cut a small wound into his neck. And he says,
"You have taken my children. I have taken one of yours. I forgot one last demand. You will bring out one precious item every dusk, and you will also bring it with one of your children."
And he reaches down, grabs the back of Tao Chu's lifeless body, picks him up, and Tao Chu hangs from the mouth of this dragon as he and he takes off into the forest as the rest of his children disperse into the nearby woods, and the mole immediately starts tunneling down the dirt path beneath him. And you are left with the sounds of the last of the ballista bolts firing after him, and the sound of silence as the demands of this green dragon weigh on the town, that until he is satisfied, he wishes a sacrifice of a child every night, or a denizen of the town every night, along with one precious item that he can add to his hoard. And that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and I will see you next week for the continuation of Apis' story.